So here's what I would do. So I would go to Sunday school from 10 to 11, go to Dillard's for work from 12 to 6, come back for the 5 to 9, I think it was 5 to 9 or 5 to 8 service.
Yeah. And then you drive back to
And
Phoenix?
then I would sleep, and then at 6 a.m. I would leave for my 8 a.m. class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
And it's 100 miles each way from Tucson to Phoenix.
So you were always on the go.
I was always, I don't know how to stop.
So it all makes sense now. So welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a very special guest. She's the CEO of multiple financial brokerage firms, and she's helped businesses and individuals set themselves up for future success. She has a master's in business with a minor in finance. Her experience as a corporate executive for over 10 years has helped her attain an understanding of expansion and growth in different markets. She is a leader in networking and marketing ventures, especially in connection to resources and human capital. As an entrepreneur and personal networking professional with a background in corporate expansion and marketing efforts and a passion for small business, she's excited about personally helping other small businesses evolve and flourish. Ultimately, her goal is to become an angel investor. Please help me welcome to the podcast, LisSandra Duarte.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. That was a beautiful intro.
Thanks.
That was epic.
Hopefully after 30-something episodes, I can get it down, right?
That was good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
So welcome. Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you. Nice to have you on
Great
the podcast.
to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having
You
me.
came all the way from Arizona, huh?
Yep, Tucson, Arizona.
Wow.
Is that where you stay right now? Or?
That's where I live.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
That's where you grew up, right?
Yeah, born and raised.
Okay, so that's a
Yeah.
perfect segue because we always like to start the podcast with
Yeah.
kind of, getting to know the person.
Yeah.
Because, we feel here that if they know where you come from, how you got to where you are, they can connect with you better. So
Right.
let's start at the beginning, growing up in Arizona.
Yeah, it's been a while since it's been like 40 years since.
Oh, wow.
So
Well, don't worry. It's been 43
Like-
years for me.
I'm like going back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So I am the oldest of 7.
7.
Yes.
Wow.
So my dad actually born in Zacatecas, Mexico,
Okay.
and was raised in Hermosillo, Sonora.
Okay.
My mom and him met at a church event in 75 or something like
Okay.
that.
2 years before I was born. Right?
So basically what ended up happening is that they became, back in those days, there was no Instagram,
No.
no WhatsApp, no
Nope.
text messages. So they actually became pen pals.
Wow.
Yeah. So they have like a long, literally my mom has a whole drawer full of their letters back and forth.
beautiful.
So,
That's
yeah.
like a classic story. You just
Yeah.
don't hear anymore. You know what I mean?
Because the funny thing is they were always in relationships.
Uh-huh.
So finally, I guess when they were both not in relationships, my dad's like, well, let's just get married. And my mom's like, okay.
Closer, right?
Definitely. So they tried for 2 years. So they got married in 78.
Okay.
Tried for 2 years, 2 miscarriages. They were
wow.
both boys. So girl had to show how it's done,
She's like, get out the way, yo. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So basically after me, it was one right after the other.
Yeah.
Like literally one right after the other.
So were they both still in Mexico when they got together?
No, my dad moved to Tucson. So my dad immigrated. And here's a cool kind of little segue here because my dad had such a good standing with the Mexican consulate and he served in the army and everything with Mexico. He had just such a perfect record that they allowed him to have 50 guests from Mexico to Tucson for his wedding.
Whoa.
That's awesome.
And
Wow.
that's like unheard of. Like
That's
they don't
crazy.
give that much permission to have people over. I mean, of course, now the border's a little bit more tighter,
Yeah.
security, etc. But for him to do that at that time was like a huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
shows a little bit
70s
of
were a little different.
yeah.
I have a story of my uncle who was in the United States illegal, by the way, and he was working for the actual immigration office.
Oh my god.
Like
Well,
stamp.
that's
This is a true
awesome.
story, by the way. He was like
funny.
stamping passports, and he didn't even have one himself.
That's
He's like,
crazy.
approved, approved. Hatem needed him back then, right? Hatem? Just kidding. Not really. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's cool. Okay, so he had 50 guests from Mexico.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they got married, like I said, and it was just one of those things. And they got married New Year's Eve of all
Oh.
times.
Wow.
So yeah,
So do they celebrate New Year's or do they celebrate their anniversary?
they really don't see it as like a big deal. They're just like,
okay.
he just makes an announcement at church. Oh yeah, this year we're this many years married.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah. So they met in Mexico. And
They met actually in Tucson.
Oh,
so my
in
dad
Tucson.
came for a church event, and that's where they met.
Oh, okay.
And then every time there was an event in Mexico, or whatever, she would go over there. He would come over here.
So your mom was
back and forth.
American?
Yes, my mom's first generation.
Okay.
Mexican American.
That's cool. It's kind of like my mom. My mom,
Yeah.
I think she's first generation. And my dad's from Mexico.
How far is the travel from Arizona, Mexico, if they're going back and
Depends
forth?
on what part. So, like, for
Okay.
instance, Hermosillo, where he grew up, that's about an 8-hour drive.
Okay.
So it's not that far.
Yeah, like here to LA or less.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
Is that where you got your driving abilities from? 'Cause you drive a lot, don't
I
you?
drive a lot.
Yeah.
On average, I drive maybe about 100 miles a day.
Wow.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Do you have a hybrid?
No,
Oh,
4-cylinder.
Electric car would probably be good.
Yeah, I've thought about that.
Yeah.
But then if you think about the electric bill to have to charge it.
I didn't think about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
You got
bad.
charging stations. Whatever.
Yeah.
Not in Arizona, not
Not
like
in
California.
Arizona? Oh, really?
There's like, because I thought about it. I really did contemplate. I was like, okay, what if I get an electric car? But then it's like, my electric bill is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a newly converted blue state.
We won't talk about that. Like,
This is not a political podcast. Anyways.
I know,
Okay.
but
So they
craziness.
met. They got married. So pen pals, right? Because your dad was still in Mexico.
yes.
Okay. And so they would just go back and forth. They meet. But they were in relationships. And then finally, when they both were single,
Yeah.
your dad's like, I'm going in for the close.
Pulled the trigger. Just
All right,
done.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, so what happened after they got married? Then they had you, and then
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit about growing up in Arizona. What was that like?
So because my dad immigrated, he knew how to do everything construction. So he's been a mason for basically his whole life. And my dad started working as young as like 5 years old, like
Wow.
selling newspapers,
Yeah.
gum, that kind of thing in Mexico.
Yeah.
What's the right age for Mexican
The right
to start
age.
working? Yeah, he was a little
Shiny
old,
shoe-
man. What's going on?
Shoe shining, the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So
Mexicans know work. That's what they
yeah,
know.
because he grew up where he was the man of the house
Oh,
because his dad was a drunk and basically he had to take care of the household.
So they grow up very young, literally like 5.
Yeah, he had to grow up fast.
Yeah.
So essentially what ended up happening is that when he moved to the US, he had to basically learn how to work for someone else because his whole life he always just almost like a subcontractor.
Yeah. Like
Always just-
self-employed,
Yeah.
entrepreneur.
So
kinda.
working for a construction company and everything, quickly he was just like, I can't do this.
I understand your dad. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. So that's where you get your
Like,
entrepreneurial spirit
yes.
from. Okay.
So in 85 is when he got licensed and got his contractor's license and everything and started his own business.
Oh, so he did his own construction business first. Okay.
And he's had it since 85. So we're talking, 30 plus years now that
Wow.
he's had it.
So he still has it.
Yeah, my
So
dad's
he's very well established.
my dad's going on 68 now and he still works.
Wow.
He's like, I'll stop when I'm dead.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
but some people, even if they love it or that's all they know, they're gonna do it
Right.
till yeah.
Well, he says if I stop, I'm gonna die. He
Yeah.
goes because then I'm not gonna know what to do.
Yeah, I
like
know,
he's
right?
like he's like no, like I have to work.
Wow, that's
And
crazy.
it's funny because he's the one that tells me the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, you work too much.
Yeah,
I'm like, Dad, you work
yeah,
too much.
yeah. So you got your
You
work
got it
ethic
from your
and
dad.
your
Yeah.
entrepreneur spirit and your driving from your dad.
No, I guess so.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So what was it like being the oldest of 7?
get blamed for everything.
Get blamed for everything.
It was always my fault. Somebody cried, Sandra, what'd you do? I'm like, I didn't do anything.
Oh my
I'm like,
god.
Yeah.
So what's the mixture of boys and girls with all your siblings?
So we are 3 girls and 4 boys.
Oh, so more boys than girls, huh?
But it was women heavy in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
So it's myself, then my brother, and then my 2 sisters, and then the 3 brothers.
Oh, so is it kind of like 2 separate generations in a way? Like the 3 brothers are really
Well-
close, and the first ones are kind of close.
So my baby brother, the accident, or the surprise, as my mom
How
says,
far apart is he?
he's 14 years younger than I am.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the surprise, right?
He's
Yeah.
my baby, I
Yeah.
tell.
Is he the youngest?
He's the youngest.
Just-
So just to give you a little bit of context,
Yeah.
between the age difference between him and I is longer than the age difference between him and my son.
Wow,
Wow.
Crazy, right?
that is crazy.
Yeah.
So he came after your son?
No, like the age difference.
Oh, see, I'm not good at math, guys. So you don't have to be good at math to do a podcast. By the way, make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure to smash that like button and hit the notification bell. Anyways, so going back to your baby brother, right?
Yeah, so my baby brother, he's going to turn 26 in April.
Okay.
My son is 12.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Got it.
So the difference between 26
Yeah.
and 12 versus
Gotcha.
40 and 26, 25
Gotcha.
technically. So
Okay.
yeah.
So what was that like?
So essentially what ended up happening is I mean, we grew up poor, but we didn't know it. So
Which is good.
yeah, because my mom always made sure that she provided. So if my dad brought home $20, those $20 lasted. You know, that's kind of the deal.
Right.
And I kind of laugh now because I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize we had government cheese. Like, we just thought, oh, wow, this is good cheese, you know?
Yeah.
But we did the whole, you know, powdered milk and everything. I used to say, oh, yeah, you know, we have water with our cereal. And people would be like, what are you talking about? But
Oh,
it's the
wow.
powdered milk.
Yeah.
And so, because I always saw
And
my
you-
mom pouring
yeah.
the water,
Yeah.
like I didn't, you know.
You didn't understand.
What did
I
your
didn't-
mom do?
So my dad and my mom made a commitment to each other, and my dad said, "I will bring home the bacon. You make sure it lasts."
Government bacon,
Yeah. So for the first, I think, so they, like I said, they had kids right away. So it was myself and my brother, and we lived in a small little apartment behind my grandparents' house. And then we moved from there, we moved to another like small 1-bedroom house. And then from there, we finally moved to basically the house I grew up in, which was at that time a 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
Oh, wow.
And
how many people was in that?
it was just myself and my brother.
Okay, so,
And then when my sister, and my mom was a deaf and blind teacher.
okay.
So when my sister came, so my aunt would take care of us. She would take care of us when we, you know, when she went to school or to go work.
To go work, to teach, yeah.
Yeah. So when I turned about 5 and my second sister came along, she was pregnant with my second sister, my dad's like, I think you need to stay home. Because I'm going to have to figure it out, but you need to stay home. Like, there's too many kids now, and, you know, yeah, your sister's helping us out, that kind of thing, but, like, we're not going to be able to do this. Like, you have to stay home with them. So my mom, she got educated. She had her bachelor's degree. Like I said, she was a deaf and blind teacher. So essentially, she transitioned to being like a stay-at-home mom. And I mean, like I said, we never felt like we lacked anything. We never lacked attention, love, encouragement, anything. One of the things my mom always would tell me was that no matter what it is, if you want it, you can get it, but you have to work for it.
Wow.
Like, I don't care what it is. Whatever you want, you got to work for it, and it's yours.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay. And so she's like, why is it that you just don't quit? And I told her, I go, don't you remember what you told me?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, like, no matter what. So that was always instilled in us. Like, whatever you want, you just have to work for it, and it's yours.
Yeah. So it seems like you got really good habits and values from your parents, like work ethic, you know.
No question.
You believe you can achieve anything if you
Yeah.
work for it, stuff like that. Driving
Oh, yeah.
a lot. Just kidding. Entrepreneurial spirit. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and then it's basically when my dad transitioned in 85, started his business, my mom's like, well, I have to make some money. So she became an Avon lady.
Oh,
Avon. I remember Avon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my mom was a customer for that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe she was one of your mom's customers. Just kidding.
They're pretty worldwide. I think they have it in
yeah.
the Philippines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Avon.
everywhere.
Yeah. So your mom was also an entrepreneur then, basically.
Yes.
So so you said you grew up in church.
Yes.
So when did that start to all happen?
When I was born.
Oh, so your dad was doing church and doing construction.
Yeah.
So he's still doing both.
So my dad's an ordained minister. He's been an ordained minister since he was 18 years old.
Oh wow.
So essentially, it was like, you're going to church. Like, there's no question. So essentially, it was like, in the churches that we grew up in, the church we grew up in, it was basically Sunday service, Tuesday and Thursday service. But my mom was very adamant, like, hey, the kids go to school, they have to get their night rest, etc. So my dad would go during the week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but we would stay home.
Oh, okay.
So
you
they
guys
always
still had a kind of a normal life. Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, compared to 3 nights a week in church.
right.
Yeah.
So essentially, it was like a whole thing. Like, they always I make a joke with my parents. I say, you guys ruined marriage for me. And they're like, why? I go, because you guys made it seem so simple.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Like, you legit made it seem easy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, mom said something and dad was okay with it. Dad said
Yeah.
something, mom was okay with it. It was never like, oh, there's an argument or a discussion
Yeah.
about it. No, it was just like, okay.
They seem very compatible and they flow easily.
Very, very communicative. And
Yeah.
one of the things I did ask my mom, because, you know, I'm divorced, so.
Me too. Hey, high five.
I have divorced parents.
You too.
Something. There you go.
Okay. Thank you.
So for me, it was one of those things where I thought that's how everybody, you know, all marriages are supposed to be like that, right? Yeah. Well, what she, because I mean, you want to know, like, seriously, how the heck did you guys make it work? Like, what did you do? And one of the things she told me that made me laugh, she goes, you don't know what happened behind closed doors. Like, I don't want to know what happened behind closed doors.
Like, Mom.
Yeah. And so, but it was that. She goes, we communicated everything. We talked about everything.
Communication is everything for a relationship.
Exactly. And 7:00 on the dot, if they heard a peep out of the room, like they were coming with a belt. Like, it was like, no.
Discipline too.
Discipline, like, and of course, that was their time between 7 and 9 to do whatever it is that they were going to do. And
Make
so.
more babies, communicate.
Yeah,
Just
no
kidding.
kidding.
I'm like,
Just
do
kidding,
what they
Mom
want
and
to
Dad,
do.
But not
What?
really, right?
Talk about whatever.
So
Exactly.
they're very
doing.
structured too.
Yeah.
So that's where you get your
That's
structure
why
from.
I'm so obsessed with,
Oh
like,
my gosh. That's
Are you a
Time.
Virgo?
I'm not. I'm a
Okay.
Leo.
Oh.
No worries.
Yeah.
Structured.
But she's super structured. right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just okay. So mom always had a schedule, and we were all in sports, after school activities, everything. We were always in every single type of thing that you could imagine.
Yeah.
My mom was the soccer mom. We had the van, the whole thing, and not only was she the soccer mom for our family, but she took our friends. Like, anytime, like, so and so needs a ride. Okay, get in the car. You know, it was like mom was the school bus for everybody. So.
Well, their parents were probably working all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, my dad, like I said, he provided and made sure my mom made every penny stretch. So, and she'd always make sure that, you know, we had what we needed when we needed it.
Yeah.
And like I said, she always pushed us. You can do whatever you want, you know. So she encouraged getting in. I mean, I play a violin.
Wow.
I sing.
Yeah. I've
I
heard you
played
sing before.
basketball.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Wow.
like so much, you know, that I ended
Yeah.
up doing. And she even pushed me. I remember I was in 6th grade and she pushed me to try out for student council.
Wow.
I was like, no, Mom, like, I'm not the popular one.
Yeah.
You know, like, nobody's going to vote. She goes, yes, you will. You will go and you will do it. And if they say no, no worries. No
Yeah.
big deal. You tried.
Yeah.
So, yeah, from the beginning, like, she was always, like, pushing us.
You
Yeah, I
have
mean-
an awesome mom.
Yes, I do.
Encouraging you to try different things at an
Yeah.
early age.
Yeah, that's awesome because we had a guest a couple podcasts ago, and his parents were not around, but he was raised by his grandparents, and so they were older, they were wiser, right?
Yeah.
And he just said they'd always push him to do extracurricular activities,
Yeah.
right? And that's where a lot of his foundation and achievement came
Right.
from, is always being part of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
And
awesome.
I learned that from my mom. Like, always feed positivity to your kids.
Wow.
Like, even if things are, like, if you're in the ground and things are bad, like, always speak positive to them because they will receive everything you're telling them.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
So I love my parents; they're awesome, but it wasn't exactly always like that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. For those that grew up Mexican and you get, ay, tonto, or menso, or
Yeah. Well,
que burro. Or
Are these bad words? What are
no,
these?
it's just like dummy or
Yeah.
like think, you know, like don't be, you know, an idiot, that kind of thing.
Okay.
yeah.
And I mean, I got that a little bit from my dad because like that's how he grew up,
yeah, it's
right?
it's a male.
But then my mom would counter that with, you got this, like whatever you want, go for it.
That's important.
And so,
though.
yeah. And so that's the one thing that I always tell my son, like, what do you want to get out of life? Whatever you do. So that's the one thing I always tell my son. Whatever you do, whether it be good or bad, you're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So there's consequences. So those consequences are based off of what you do. Whether it's good, you're going to have a good result. If it's bad, then you're going to have a bad result. So you got to make sure you choose wisely.
Yeah. That's very smart, actually. That's kind of like the strategy I use for myself. Whenever I'm going to make a decision, especially an
Right.
important one, I always look at what's the worst that can happen and what's the best that can happen.
Exactly.
If I could deal with the worst, I'll make the decision. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that's really good.
Because
parenting
what
advice.
if it works out?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean,
right?
I think Tony Robbins would say that. What if it works out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the resistance, the fear that you have of the outcome kind of like goes
Yeah.
away or like softens up, you
Yeah.
know? Because what if it works out?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So your mom was always a positive influence, soccer mom, extraordinaire, you know, so you had a pretty good foundation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then, so tell us about, you know, your high school years, and obviously you went to college and got your master's degree, right?
Yeah.
With a minor in finance. She made sure I knew the difference, because obviously you could tell I only have a bachelor's degree. Because when I graduated, that was good enough. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then like 5 years later, it was like that was a high school diploma. You know what I mean? And then then you got to get your master's, and now it's like you got to have a PhD, and or else you have nothing, right? But
yeah.
So tell us about that. What made you decide to? How was high school? Was it fine? Same thing or?
Yeah. So high school, I was in orchestra. I was in yearbook. I was senator of my senior class.
Wow. So super achiever.
Yeah. I played basketball my junior year. I was just
What position did you play?
Oh, guard.
Guard. Okay.
Yeah, I hit threes.
Oh, there you go. So you're a shooter.
I can still shoot.
Yeah,
I can still shoot. Yeah.
I can't shoot.
No.
My best move in basketball is called the turnover, and then the next move is getting rejected. So
yeah,
mine was
funny.
more art and other kind of stuff, right?
Well, that's the other thing is my mom also pushed, like she didn't ever let us win, so we always played cards and everything. So she made sure there was a competitiveness in us.
That's awesome.
So one of the things that's kind of funny. I mean, I'm short. I'm 4'11" without heels. So it's funny because my son's now taller than me. He's 12 and he's taller than me. So we play basketball. And I don't let him win. And he's like, Mom, I'm like, if I let you win, then I'm not helping you.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that's so
cool.
true.
Yeah.
It's like you're enabling them,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. And it's like, for me, it's like, if you got a trophy, it's because you actually did something.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just a participation.
You earned it.
Earned
it.
You worked for it. You busted your butt. You put in hours, of work.
I think we all kind of grew up in those generations where there was no participation trophies. If you sucked,
kids
kids let you know that you sucked, right?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, because I sucked, right? But just kidding, right? Not really. Anyways, but yeah, it was not the era of participate.
Right.
But it's true. Like, you build that confidence, even if you suck, it makes you tougher because you're always having to compete with those people that are better than you. So you even just get better anyways, right?
Or at least you tried it, and maybe you're meant to do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
At least you tried it.
Yeah.
Even if you suck at one thing, you can be great at the other thing. So you just got to try it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Because, I was more artistic all the time. Like, that was my God-given talent, was art. And I was, charismatic in high school. And, like, I always had a lot of friends and stuff like that. Yeah. I was just never good at sports. All my friends were really good at sports. But I was the one that was not good at sports. So it was kind of funny. But anyways,
you never know.
I digress, right? So you had a shot.
Yes.
And now, see, it's funny, the story about you and your son. So I was watching this thing on ESPN, and it had this young kid who's really good at basketball. He's like the star of the team. And he was telling the same story. He's like, my mom played basketball, and she never let me win. So she taught me how to compete because he was kind of small, like growing up, right? Eventually he grew, big enough to play basketball. But he's like, I remember those times where my mom would not let me win, and it made me want to work harder so that I could win.
Beat my mom.
Yeah, beat my mom, right?
Yeah, it was funny because he was telling me, he's like, I've been practicing basketball. I was like, oh, really? Yeah. I was like, you think you beat me now? And he's like, I will. One day I will. I'm like, all right.
I like that answer, that I will.
Yeah. Good.
Well, I hope so, He's going to tower over me eventually.
Like, come on, dude, you're 2 feet taller than me. You gotta win now, right? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So you played basketball, and then so you decided to go to college, and you decided to pursue masters.
I didn't want to.
You didn't want to? Tell us about that. How come?
So senior year in high school, I became rebellious. Grew up in church, right?
Yeah.
It's normal,
we can talk about that. Right?
It's normal.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard all the church kids are the craziest ones.
Well, that's what they say. Pastors' kids, preachers' kids, they're the worst.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying I was the worst,
yeah.
but I mean, I had my moments.
Yeah.
So yeah, I became rebellious. Like, I was so sheltered where I couldn't even go to the movies. Wow. Couldn't go out with my friends. Couldn't go to quinceañeras. Couldn't do anything. I never slept over. I never did anything. Yeah. So senior year, I figured out this thing that, if you ditch, you can do whatever you want. Nobody's going to know.
Yeah. It's funny. I got a funny story about that.
It's like a rush, right? Like you're doing something.
It's like, oh my God, I have this whole day to myself. What am I going to do, right? So senior year, I ended up dating a football player, of course, the whole story.
The basketball player and the football player. How ironic.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
There's no stories that start like that.
Yeah.
So it was like, I had a job because I started working as early as, I think I was like 14 years old when I got my first job.
Your dad's like, what took you so long? I started at 5,
Right?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was a freshman in high school, and I was like, well, I want this and I want that. And my mom's like, well, you're getting this and you're getting that unless you get a job.
Right.
And I was like, I guess I'm getting a job. So I took summer work, you know.
Dang,
to
14 you started working. So
freshman
in the
year.
U.S., that's very young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I think I started at 15 and I had to get like a work permit or something.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. It was an after school summer program.
Okay.
So they would pay you to basically run sports and stuff. Why not?
Well, perfect. Right up your alley, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing is I ended up working for a company called P.O. Decimo. And what it was is basically I was like a camp counselor kind of thing. So I did all the sports and all the outdoor activities and stuff. Worked like 4 or 5 hours a day and got paid. I think at that time, I think I was getting paid like maybe $12 an hour or something like that.
And that's a lot of money to a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was because again, we were poor and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
We were allowed, like because of where I grew up, I was allowed to participate in that program.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was like, it was like a
area.
scholarship kind of deal.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in Barrio Holywood.
Oh, wow. I don't know what that is, but it sounds
Yeah,
pretty
what
bad.
is that?
So again, it's like,
Yeah,
I mean,
tell the listeners for they don't know what
Yeah.
Barrio Holywood is in Arizona.
so it's an old barrio. It's basically a neighborhood.
Okay.
So
It's like projects.
no, we don't call it projects. It's just
This is the barrio.
it's the barrio.
Yeah.
You know, you grow up. It's between certain between Speedway and Grande,
Okay.
and it's like a block of houses.
Okay.
And basically, if you grew up in Barrio Holywood, like, you know, it was like the place or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but then over on the other side of Speedway, there's Barrio Sobaco, and on the other side, it was Menlo Park. So, you know, it's just different neighborhoods, different names for different neighborhoods. And so, like I said, like I grew up in what they would consider to this day, oh my God, that's a gang-related area. That's a dangerous area of town, etc. But we grew up there. So it was like, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
We would walk
It
everywhere.
was normal to you.
Yeah, so I mean, you grew up in certain neighborhoods, you went to certain schools, you grew up together, that kind of deal. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
And it was normal to you because it's just how you grew up.
Right. I mean, it's like the people that you live next to. So, you know, yeah, there might have been some gang related activity, drugs, whatever, but it didn't affect us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way because in the Philippines, I grew up there until I was 10 years old. And every time when I go visit my old neighborhood, my mom would always like, no, you're not going to go there. I'm like, why not? Like, I grew up there. It's my
Right.
birthright to go visit. But, you know, it's sketchy. It's,
Yeah.
you know, you want to get robbed or anything. But I was like, man, I could still speak the language. I can talk to people. But obviously, if they look at me, they're like, oh, you're coming from America.
Yeah.
Then you would get looked at differently.
Yeah.
But
They're like, "Ooh,
in
you
my
got money."
heart, like,
Yeah.
I was a little girl over there.
Well, that's
you
the
know?
same thing. Like, my dad's never been to Zacatecas since he left.
Oh, got it.
And I'm like, Dad, you need to go back to your homeland.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no. He goes, they're gonna steal everything from me. Like, and I go,
My
that's
dad's like that too, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
But it is really dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if
The
you
key is to go to poor, looking
Yeah.
poor like you got nothing.
Yeah.
Like that's the key, and that's the way you'll get away with it. But
certain parts of Mexico are dangerous and
Yeah.
some are okay, but it's true. I guess since they grew up there and if their friends and family know and they go,
Right.
oh, they live on el otro lado, right? They
Yeah.
got money. They just think you have money, right?
right,
By the way, people of the world, every American does not have money. Okay, so don't
Right.
rob them just because they're American.
We all gotta work too.
Yeah,
so,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then tell us about so how did you start to rebel? You said.
Yeah. Okay. So senior year of high school. So it was like, you know, I was so, like I said, my mom always had this like on a schedule. So I always ran 7 classes a year.
Wow.
Like I never did anything less. So when I got to my senior year, I just needed 2 classes to graduate.
So you're pretty much done.
I was done and I basically checked out.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's
And I got this close to not graduating.
jeez.
I was like,
You know, it's a funny story because I was just like you, very sheltered, parents control. Because, you know, in high school, they can watch everything and everything.
I know.
And then I remember I was like, I'm going to cut one day. Like, one day. Because this is how, like, crazy I was because I was so sheltered.
Yeah.
The one day I got caught.
Yeah.
And then I got in trouble. And then I got a grade one of my grades got lowered and it messed with my GPA.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah.
Out of the entire 4 years, right? Just because whatever. But I mean, I understand what you mean because when I got to college, sorry, parents, this is the first time you're going to learn about this. This is probably one of the reasons it took me 8 years to graduate from college You guys know the truth now. Just kidding. Edit that, right? I never attended because I was free. I was like, wait a minute. You mean my parents don't know that I'm here? I don't have to be here. And then by then I was, I had a lot of friends. I was kind of like, that was like my real popular era of my life. So I just didn't go to class at all. And I was just out having fun all the time. You know what I mean? Sorry, parents. But but anyway, so I just wanted to share that because we have a very similar story about the minute we were free.
Right.
So by the way, if you're a parent out there, I know you want to do the best for your kids, but it's always not the best to really hold them down and shelter them because eventually they're going to probably rebel or do something stupid, right? Or just go out there to try to experience it, right? Don't let them do whatever they want either, but maybe kind of find a fine line in between there, right?
Right.
So
it's kind of funny that you said you got caught.
Yeah.
So on one of those days that I was coming back from 4th Avenue, which is where we would go to just kind of look at the shops, whatever, it was because I went to Tucson High. It's literally like the next block over where it was like 4th Avenue. And there's like all kinds of like little, like it's like a hipster kind of where there's like, I mean, you'd love it. They do everything from like there's smoke shops, there's tie-dye places, like everything's like,
it's very creative, basically.
Exactly.
Sounds like a hate street in San Francisco.
Yeah,
tie-dye
probably.
shirts and
everything.
smoke shops.
It's total chill, and then there's like a Dairy Queen, and so it's like the thing to do if you were a Tucson
to go.
right?
Yeah.
Teenager,
And you just walk. You don't even need a car.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm walking back because my mom like told you she was always on time.
Yeah.
Pick us up, and I'm walking back, and me, the smart one that I am, I'm walking outside this way instead of coming around the other way. My mom's parked and she's looking at me, and I'm just like, oh jeez. Because she would tell me, she's like, well, they called this from the school. I was like, they're messed up, they don't know what they're talking about. It's like one of those things that it was to a point where I couldn't get away with it anymore. But so senior year, like I basically let go of all my electives and just focused on those 2 classes. I was like, I don't want to be here. And I ended up just working more. So basically what ended up happening was I started correlating freedom with working.
Oh.
So it's kind of, that's where I became a workaholic.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, if I go to school for 2 classes and then I can work the rest of the day, I'll make more money, whatever. So I was like, I don't want to go to college. I'm tired of school because I literally, like I said, I would fill up my entire schedule with like all these extracurriculars and everything. I ended up making a speech at our high school graduation. I don't even know what I said.
Wow.
And now I'm like, I wish I would have like recorded it. But I mean, this was 1998, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, 95, so I know, right?
I mean, I had a cell phone in 1998, but it was like a block and it flipped down. And I was like, a big old box,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like now I look back and I'm like, man, like I had the opportunity to speak to my graduating class and I have no idea what I said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't think about those things when we're young,
So what inspired you? What was it? Like you were just burned out? Like
I think that's
tired?
what it was.
Yeah.
Like I was just tired of almost being told what to do.
Oh, got it.
Like being put in a box, and I was just like, another 4 years of this? I was like, school for another 4 years? Like I was like, no. And so I didn't apply for any colleges. I didn't apply for any scholarships. I did everything they tell you, everything backwards from what they tell you to do. So they always tell you, fill out your FAFSA forms, fill out your college applications. I didn't do any of that.
I ain't filling out shit, right?
Pretty much. I was like, not me.
It seems like it was time for you to start thinking for yourself.
Right.
Even though you had this disciplined foundation, now it's my turn to start thinking about what I really want to do.
Yeah, I was this close from signing up for the military.
Wow.
I almost signed up for military too.
I was at the Army recruitment office.
Also the Army, okay.
Because again, the boyfriend. Oh, jeez.
Okay.
So he was going to the Army.
Okay. Right.
He was going to the Army, and he's like, "Well, I don't want to leave you," but like, I was just like, "Do I want to go to the Army?" Yeah. And funny thing is, I took an aptitude test, and the number 1 score on there was to be an Army sergeant.
Wow.
So I was like, maybe I do belong in the Army.
So you graded the highest score.
That was my highest score, like of jobs that I could take. And I was just like, interesting.
You would have
but
been on
again,
your way to a solid $60,000 a year.
Oh yeah, exciting.
The benefits.
Anyways, nothing wrong if you make $60,000 a year. Yeah. I'm saying.
Yeah.
You guys will learn about how much he makes now. And anyways, not about how much, but her career is a lot better than that right now. But anyway, so you almost went to the Army.
But at least you tried it. You did the test. I mean,
I did, because I was like, you know what, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Right.
And like I always said, I was like, I was always in retail. So like I started my retail career when I think it was 16 when I started working in retail. And for me, it was just that customer experience, that conversation, meeting new people every day, being in that kind of environment. It was easy for me. And just being able to meet new people and talk new conversation, meet new stories every day.
It was natural for you.
Right.
Yeah. You realize you need to be around people.
Right. And so what I ended up doing is after I had my first days in retail, then I was like, well, I'll just work my way up. Right. So that day came where I was almost about to graduate, and my mom sat me down. She's like, what are you going to do?
Like, I'm going to the army.
I did tell her that too.
Oh, wow.
She's like, I'm going to go. And she says, oh, that boy is all wrong for you. And I was just like, made me run into his arms even more, because at that age, you're just like, I don't want to hear it. I just want to do whatever I want to do. Yeah. And it was one of those things. And she was just like, she prayed for me, all that stuff. And it was, I remember it was my senior year of high school. It was April 14th. It was Passover weekend. And every year there was an annual convention. And so I went and I was just like, oh, I guess I'll be here, whatever. Being the rebellious kid that I was.
Right.
And then that's when I actually got baptized, for my time to get baptized. And I felt the calling, and I felt like freedom all of a sudden. And I was just like, I almost felt like something was lifted, like something that was always like on my chest and stuff. And I finally was just like, let it go. I let go of everything, anger, upset, whatever. And that was like my rebirth kind of situation.
It's like your ego left.
Yeah. And it was almost because I didn't really know what my purpose was. I didn't know what I was supposed to do or who I was supposed to be. And I was always told you have to do this, 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 and this. And it was always about religion versus about relationship.
Yeah.
And that moment was when I realized, like, oh, shoot, like,
it is about relationship.
It's about a relation. Like, I'm actually talking to you. Yeah. Like, this is real, And I can't explain it. Nobody can explain it. Everyone has their own relationships and everyone has their own encounters.
I've been slain in the spirit, so I kind of understand I don't know if that's what happened to you.
Yeah, pretty much. I was crying uncontrollably.
Yeah. So I know that. And it's like out of body experience. And you're like, I'm not religious and spiritual, but that made me just understand that there is a higher power. There's something bigger and greater than us. And so I understood. You were saying the spirit. Wow. Yeah. That's a powerful experience. Yeah. Especially at 17. Jeez. Yeah.
And so it was almost like, again, my dad's a minister. My mom, minister's wife, very fervent prayers, reading the Bible all the time. Yeah. So it was one of those things where it was inevitable, if they were so loyal and so, committed to that it was going to happen. So for me, it was like, oh, okay, this is real. And then after that, everything in my life started changing.
Wow.
Got rid of the boyfriend. Yeah. Actually lost a lot of friends. Yeah. Because I literally went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, it's addition by subtraction.
Right.
You left one tribe and you're entering a new
one. But then I changed my outer appearance as well.
Oh, okay.
Because I thought that's what you're supposed to do.
Sounds like a spiritual awakening.
Yes. Yeah. But like, for instance, I went from wearing tight jeans and little shirts to wearing long skirts all the way to the ground and like fully covered and like no makeup.
Almost Amish.
One extreme to the other. Yeah. Right. So I lost a lot of friends. I did. Even my best friend, she's like, I don't even know you. Wow. Like, what's going on? Like, are you abandoning me? You left your boyfriend? Are you leaving me too? And I was like, it's not about you. And I love my best friend. Her name's Yvette. And she lives in Baltimore. We've been best friends since the first day of high school. Wow. Like, she was always like my confidant, the person that I, confided in and everything. She knew all my secrets. Yeah. And so one of the things that she did that I will never forget is she wrote me a letter. Oh my God.
Back to the letters again, right?
Yeah. She wrote me a letter and she said, I want to apologize for being so not thinking about your feelings and only thinking about how I felt.
Was that recently or was that?
No, this was when we were seniors in high school.
Wow. And that's important because if that's like your best friend and you guys lose each other, that's actually impactful on you.
And the fact that she said, I don't understand what you're going through, but I know who you are. And I know that if this is something that you're going through, that I just want to tell you I'm here.
It's beautiful.
Awesome.
And I'm sorry for how I acted.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, wow. I was like, okay, so I didn't lose my best friend. Because it's hard, especially being a teenager and having to almost like figure out what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
And hopefully you have those people in your life that help you through that. But people turn their back on you and they turn their back on you fast. And I've had that happen all throughout my life. But the one person that I can always count on is her.
Yeah.
Like, again, we've been best friends since the first day of high school. That we were 14 years old at the time.
Are you guys still really
we're
good friends?
still really close.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very rare, especially when it comes to women.
No.
Because like usually
Excuse me?
No, the reason.
It's
so
true,
I'll talk to
though.
girls like, what happened to your best friend? Like that bitch. I'm like, what happened? It's a guy. It's a guy that breaks them up. It's always a guy, right? It's over some dude or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm like, geez. Guys can beat each other up and still be like great friends after that. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? So, anyway, I don't know. Maybe it's not
It's
like
true,
that, but
though.
that's my experience, guys.
Yeah, that's Isaac's
Don't
experience.
kill me, right? But yeah, I mean that's just from my experience. What I've
Yeah.
seen, like girls. But that's awesome. So you guys are still great friends.
Yeah, still, like I can text her at any time and she'll answer me like
Okay.
within
That's awesome.
minutes. Like,
So you were slain in the spirit. You had like a spiritual awakening. You said, "Man, this is real." And then now what?
well, then that's when my mom sat me down and had that conversation. Like, what are you gonna do? And that's when I decided I'm gonna work full time.
Okay.
And then during that summer, I was very, very, and this is one of the reasons why I know it sounds silly, but I want to make a lot of money because I want to do this that help those kids that to have the opportunity that I had when I was in high school. So there was a program called Talent Search.
Okay.
And again, lower income families didn't know about it. So Talent Search actually gave us the opportunity to go to different schools, different avenues to kind of figure out what you want to do with your life.
To prep them because their parents or their whoever was taking care of them probably didn't know.
Right. So Talent Search, I ended up visiting the military base. I ended up visiting different colleges. And there was this one school, and I mean, a lot of people don't know about it. It's DeVry University.
Yeah, I know DeVry.
Yeah.
Well, I remember. The commercials were always
All
on,
over.
I think they're still around.
They
Yeah.
are still around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So-
don't watch TV anymore, so I don't know.
But it's a private college.
Right.
So one of the things that they talked about was to be able to work on school specifically for your job.
Right.
So it was like a fast track to
So focused
your
education.
career.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it was what I wanted to hear. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm going to do this. So I went with my mom. We drove to Phoenix because the campus was in Phoenix. And it's about a 2-hour drive. And the whole way up there, she was like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, is this really what you want to do? Because that meant I would have to move out of home.
But that, what I do appreciate about your mom is that she asked you instead of told you.
Right.
She always gave you the option and the choice,
Yeah.
which is powerful.
Yeah. She's a great mom.
She's a super mom. Hello.
Shout out to your mom.
Adelaida.
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 Shout out to you, Adelaida.
You're awesome.
Yeah. And so for me, it was like a whole drive up there was like, is this really what you want to do? If you decide it's not what you want to do, no big deal. We get to the campus, went through the whole thing, and they're like, well, you have to take a test. Because I never took the SATs. I never took the ACTs. I didn't take any of those tests. I was
that
like,
was when you were rebelling. You're like,
I don't like tests.
Yeah.
So, like, anytime I can avoid them, I do.
but then you aced that military test, right?
Yeah. Funny thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's because, if you want something, you go
There
after
you
it.
go, right?
It comes
You
back
work
to my
hard
mom.
and you get it.
Exactly. So I ended up, I think it was a math test or something, math and also English or whatever that I had to take because I never took those exams. And I passed it like no problem. I didn't excel, but I passed it with no problem. And they took me a tour of the campus, the whole thing, talked to me about these are the different options. And my whole thing, because I fell in love with retail and fashion. So my whole thing was, I want to be Rachel Green. I want to be a buyer for Bloomingdale's.
Wow.
That was my goal. That was my dream.
So your dream was fashion industry
Yes.
somehow. Okay.
So funnily enough, they had that was a career path, but it was just as basic as getting a business administration, degree. So I was like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
What sold me is that it was 2 years and 8 months and you're done.
Wow. Again, the fast track, right? Yeah.
Fast track. I like that track.
So I ended up graduating at 20 years old with my
What?
bachelor's degree. Yeah.
Wow. I graduated from high school in 1995. I didn't graduate from college till 2003.
I beat you.
I was on the slow track. Then like 4 years, I'm like, nah, let's double that. Let's go 8. Right? Yeah.
Fast track, slow track.
Yeah.
So
School was not for me.
Just get on track.
Well, it wasn't for me either. That's why I was like, I gotta get out. Like, how can I get out of here quicker?
Yeah.
So it was literally 3 semesters.
You're like my
a year.
sister, though. My sister, this is how bad it was. My sister is almost 5 years younger than me. She almost got her master's before I got my bachelor's degree. I was like, that's why I was like, oh shoot, I better hurry up. My sister's gonna pass me up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Anyways,
crazy.
Sorry, parents, but yeah. Look at me now. Just kidding, right?
nice haircut.
Yeah.
Look at me now.
Nice hair. See, so 8 years in college and you have nice hair. just kidding. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
So you graduated at 20.
20 years old.
Wow. What happened after that?
After that, I ended up moving back to Tucson. So my whole college career, just to kind of get an idea, you were wondering about the driving. So I lived in Phoenix from Monday through Friday and went to school.
So you went home on the weekends.
And Friday afternoon after my last class, I would drive to Tucson and go to my job at 5 p.m.
Oh, wow. So you worked in Tucson and you went to school in Phoenix?
Yeah, I was working for Dillard's.
Oh, well, but
Friday
it was
and Saturday
it was
and
right
Sunday.
in your area of what you wanted it to be. Okay.
Exactly. So I kept looking for that angle. How do I get to where I want to go? So the summer before I started college, I was full-time at JCPenney. Okay. There's still JCPenney around here?
I don't know.
I know they're closing them.
Yeah.
So like,
online, I think.
Yeah, so I did Dillard's on the weekends. And of course I had to go to church. So,
Wow.
The thing about Dillard's is that they're family owned. So they were open from 12 to 6 every day, every Sunday, versus like other,
big retail ones.
Big retailers.
What is this a retail store, clothing
Dillard's?
store?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're the only, to this day, they're the only family owned business.
Wow.
Big box retailer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why they were successful even through COVID was because they own the buildings. They're like a McDonald's. They own the buildings. They don't pay rent, so they don't have to worry about.
Yeah. So it was like real estate / retail.
Exactly, because they're still family owned and operated, so it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and that's crazy because you said they're only open 12 to 6 on Sunday, which is most retail places. That's like the busiest, so they're open all day.
Right.
Yeah.
So then what happened? So here's what I would do. So I would go to Sunday school from 10 to 11. Go to Dillard's for work from 12 to 6, come back for the 5 to 9, I think it was 5 to 9 or 5 to 8 service.
Yeah. And then you drive back to
and
Phoenix?
Then I would sleep, and then at 6 a.m. I would leave for my 8 a.m. class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
and it's 100 miles each way from Tucson to Phoenix.
So you were always on the go.
I was always, I don't know how to stop.
So it all makes sense now.
So when I ended up moving to California, it was like no big deal to drive 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, an hour. I was like, whatever. Yeah. Like, to me, it didn't faze me.
When did you move to California?
So when I moved back after college, I moved back to Tucson. I moved back in with mom and dad, which was like weird because all of a sudden I had to report to somebody again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun.
After the 3 years of independence, right? Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah. So then I was like, where are you going? What time are you going to be here? Who are you going to be with? I was like, really? I'm like, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, no matter how old we get, we're still our parents'
That's
children,
for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. I was like, oh, you care.
Yeah.
You still care. I'm old enough and you still care. Yeah. Okay.
It depends because there's caring and then there's controlling. So
it depends on the question, I guess. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, so
I moved back and I ended up working as a department manager for Mervyn's.
Mervyn's I remember Mervyn's. Yeah, they don't exist.
They don't exist
Not
anymore.
In the Bay. Yeah.
And they had a fast track to an executive position. But for whatever reason, because of the way I started, I couldn't get into that program. And that kind of pissed me off a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, seriously? So I was with them for like, I think 2 or 3, maybe about 2 years.
You didn't find out till after 2 years that you couldn't get into that program?
I found out within a year.
Okay. But you
And they're like,
stuck it
well,
out.
you can still get there, but you're going to have to do this. So, but if I would have started like as an intern, like as an internship, then I would have started at the executive level once I graduated. So I didn't know all of that. Again, like I was working at different places. So you don't know until you figure it out, right? So I ended up taking an assistant store manager position with Champ Sports.
Okay.
And I worked with Champs, and I was there maybe about 6 months, and I was on the fast track because you start as an assistant manager at Champs, and then you graduate to a store manager. The thing with Champs, though, is that nobody is going to leave their store, right? So you have to leave to go get your store.
Right.
So
They're not going to be like, you could take my job.
No.
No, you're cool.
Yeah.
I don't need this job
It's
anyways.
like,
I've only been here 75 years.
go over there.
Yeah.
So
No.
I ended up taking the first available store manager position, which was out in Cerritos, California.
Okay. Cerritos.
SoCal.
Cerritos, SoCal.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Cerritos. I lived in Southern California for almost 10 years. So
Yeah. And so I'm the competitive type.
I worked in Norwalk. So right there.
Okay, yeah. You're like right over. It's like right by Long Beach. Yeah. So my brother and I basically both got a store manager position, ran right after the other. You know, I'm competitive. I was like, oh heck no.
Same company?
No, he actually worked for Aldo Shoes.
Oh, okay. I like
Yeah.
Aldo, by the way.
No, not Aldo. Sorry,
Oh, never
edit
mind.
that out.
DSW.
No, J Stevens, which has like the Echo brand.
Oh, never heard of him. Okay.
Yeah, they're like the fancy upscale
Oh, okay.
shoes. Yeah,
Must be Arizona based.
California.
It must be SoCal based.
SoCal.
Yeah, it
SoCal.
sounds like a SoCal
But
thing.
there is like regional stores. Like
Yes.
in Southern California, they have, well, now they have Albertsons up here, but back when I lived there, it was like Albertsons, and they didn't have Albertsons up in Northern California.
Right.
Even Florida, they have this grocery store called Publix, which is like the most famous grocery store, and I never heard of a Publix in my life. I'm like, what's Publix? They're like, you don't know
Yeah.
what a Publix is? I'm like, no, I'm from California.
Well, it's like Fry's Food and Drug in Tucson and in Arizona.
We have
wow.
a Fry's electronics
right.
store.
Yeah.
No, it's Fry's Food and Drug, but everywhere else across the U.S., it's known as Kroger.
Ah, okay.
Interesting.
Did
But
it
because-
start in Arizona?
No, because Kroger acquired Fry's,
Oh.
but Fry's kept their name. That was the deal that they made with Kroger for them to acquire.
Wow, that's interesting.
So they left the family name. You know, it's something about the name. You know.
Hey, I mean, long-time
If
family
you worked
business.
in it,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So they kept the family name in Arizona. That was
Wow.
the deal that they made.
So now you're in Cerritos.
I'm in Cerritos, California.
So you moved. You basically said, I'm out.
Well,
I'm
my
coming."
brother was already there.
Oh,
So like
okay.
2 months later, I joined him.
Oh, okay.
And it was him and I. You know, I was never by myself
Okay.
at that point.
That's usually a better way.
Yeah. So
To
it
move
was,
somewhere.
I mean, my brother and I, we were like, he was born in December of 81. And I was born in August of 80. So it's
Okay,
like,
so you guys are like the closest.
yeah, we were like buddies, right? So
And that's not that far from Arizona either, right? Cerritos?
it's about a good 8 hours.
Oh, it's still 8 hours?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so
Yeah.
you guys are in Cerritos now as managers competing.
Yeah. So he's at J. Stevens, upper scale, you know, men's dress shoes.
So you always had nice shoes.
He did. He still has like a ton of shoes. He's a shoeaholic.
But that's what happens.
That's what.
sometimes.
Well, if I told you how many pairs of shoes of Jordans that I have, and I still have.
Oh wow.
Like-
Those are worth money
Ballin'.
now.
You're
Yeah.
a baller.
Those are worth a lot.
Yeah.
of money
So
now.
I've got like the 20s that nobody ever really knew about or did. I have those, and like I have a crazy shoe collection. I used to have over 100 pairs of tennis shoes. I got rid of most of them, and I was
Wow.
like, "Why did you do that?" I was like, "Storage.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna put them?"
It's probably worth thousands and thousands
Yeah.
of dollars.
Well, I
now.
ended up getting rid of a lot of them. I would gift them. Like
Oh.
if I found a kid that was my size, I'm like, here you go.
That's
and they're
beautiful.
like, what?
Yeah. That's
You're like,
awesome. though. It'll
you're
come back to you.
donated,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
That's abundant. It'll come back to you.
That's awesome.
It was fun to watch them, but when they started creasing, I was like, oh my god.
You're like, no, you're not,
supposed to do that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to wear those things. You're supposed to look at them.
But they got worn for their purpose. They earned their purpose, so it's good. It's okay.
I just recently bought my first pair of Jordans.
Yeah.
You know, I had them all when we were young, right?
I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, really?
That's why I bought them all.
Oh. Well, I had them, not all, but I had them growing up, right? And I just bought the pair of retro 4s, and
Okay.
they're like almost
Have a pair of
$400
those,
for those
yeah.
things. And I was like, well, now I'm like, why did I buy this? I can't even wear them. I'm not really
Why
into
not?
that because I mean
They're not your
you
style.
mess them up.
Oh,
because
yeah.
you mess them up.
Yeah, like
Once
it's
they're
al-
creased, they're ruined.
Yeah, it's almost like I wear them and basically I can't flip them or
Right.
they're not going to go up in value anymore. Or I just let them sit there and let them go up in value and then eventually keep them or sell them to somebody else in the future. So.
Exactly.
Wow. So you had all these shoes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had a closet just for the shoes, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, why not?
Is this stems from playing basketball? Obviously, that's
well,
why.
yeah. I mean, I've always been into sports.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
Jordan your favorite player growing up?
Yes. And I have
Okay.
a bunch
Me
of
too.
clippings. A bunch.
You
like,
know his
ridiculous.
basketball cards are worth a lot of money
And
right
I think
now.
I have some, to be honest with you. I
I'll
really
buy them off you.
I don't think I'd sell them, but no, I even have these commemorative plates, like
Oh,
all
really?
these crazy. Because my mom knew how obsessed I was with Jordan. I literally would clip out the clippings when he played baseball, the whole thing, because I was always into that.
Yeah. His
and
rookie just sold for $750,000.
it's crazy.
But it's in mint condition. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. You can't find those like,
No.
in mint condition. But even a one in kind of poor condition is still about $15,000.
No, of course.
The rookie,
'cause
yeah.
it's hard to find.
Yeah. All right. So Space Jam.
Yeah,
Space Jam.
I know, it was fun. Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
watched it when I was probably like 6 or 7. I don't remember. I was really
God.
young.
I'm like, you're making me feel old right now.
No, it was like I love Jordan. What?
Yeah, I'm older than both of you guys. So, but yeah. But now LeBron is like the new Space Jam guy.
Yeah, I respect him as a person, but not as like
Yeah.
the next.
That's
Jordan or
always
whatever.
like the debate. Like it's funny. I mean, for me, I don't care because I was a Spurs fan. So me, it was like
Right.
Tim Duncan that nobody cares about. Robinson.
No, he was good.
Yeah, he was great. Like they
Yeah.
won a lot of championships, but like he gets no love because he
Yeah.
was like boring. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he was just Mr. Fundamental. Like you know, wasn't like flashy. You know,
Right.
all this kind of stuff. And
Well, that's the thing is people love to hate people. So if
Yeah.
someone like calls attention to themselves, then it's like automatically. So that's what they say. No
polarizing.
no publicity is bad publicity.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the more people say your name, the more you get out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
you know.
But at least what I feel like from our generation and stuff is I'm just happy that I got to live through the Jordan era, the Kobe era, and Duncan era, and then now the LeBron era.
Right.
It's pretty cool. Like those are three probably the greatest NBA players that ever
Right.
lived, at least in our generation. Some older folks be like, no, Bill Russell, he won 12 times. Blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know Bill Russell, right?
Right.
But we got to see all three. But
One of the things that Jordan did that stood out as a whole. Everyone's familiar with Tom Brady, right? What does
The
Tom
GOAT.
Brady and Jordan have in common?
winning championships.
Championships. But why do they win championships?
Mentality.
Mentality.
mindset.
But what's the biggest thing that they do?
They practice all the time, like
Obsessed
nonstop.
with it. Yes.
Yeah,
and
train
getting
and
better.
train and train.
But
Yeah.
what's the one thing that they do that nobody really pays attention to?
self-talk?
No.
They make everybody else better.
Yes, leadership.
Yeah.
Oh.
They know and recognize the weaknesses and the strengths in each of the players that they work with and
Yeah.
surround themselves with. So Jordan would even say, and even Pippen would say it, and all of these guys, they would, they would just come and say, well, it's because he knew when I was open.
Yeah.
He was big on assists, and he wasn't about the credit. He
Yeah.
was about the team
And
and the
winning.
environment
Yeah.
and winning. So he's like, if I'm not going to hit the shot, but somebody else has it, I'm going to pass the ball.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing, like, LeBron James has made his name because he's always gone and done it,
Right.
gotten it done, right? But he hasn't utilized his skill set to actually see the big picture.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that you can say, like me personally, I don't really follow football or anything, but I respect Tom Brady as a
You
leader.
have to respect. I'm a Raiders fan, by
Like-
the way, and I call Tom Brady the GOAT. Most Raiders fans
Hate
hate
him.
Tom Brady because of the tuck rule, which was BS. That was a fumble. But I mean, the dude's won more championships than every single football organization.
Right.
Like he has more rings than every team that's ever existed.
That's so
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
And
he's
he's
probably
like-
gonna get more.
He's
Yeah.
like this skinny guy. Nobody really
Yeah.
like
Nobody
paid
really
attention
cared for
to.
him. It's
And
the same with Jordan.
Yeah.
Same idea, same thing, same concept. The difference is that they don't dominate the game. They dominate the industry in which they're looking at the full picture.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to get me the win?
Yeah.
Not, I'm going to get the win. No, like, who's going to help me get the win?
Yeah. That's
and
crazy.
They corral their team and they, like, pour into them. And they push them past what they think is their abilities.
Leaders, like you said, leaders get the best out of you. And
Exactly.
sometimes you don't like them because of it, because they push you.
Right.
Because nobody likes to be pushed, especially average or people that are not playing to the potential. But a leader will see you and be like, no.
You can do more.
Step it up.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not nice about it. Like I watched, I don't know if you guys watched the documentary, The Last Dance.
I haven't.
A lot of his teammates hated Jordan.
Yeah.
They hated him because he would check them. He would call them out because he wanted them to rise up to his level. Like
Right.
he was not going to allow them to stay
Yeah.
down there, right? But then, that's why they won 6 championships, right?
Right.
They probably could have had 8, but he retired for those 2 years to play
Right.
baseball, right? So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like in Tom Brady too, like Antonio Brown, the troubled receiver that the Raiders couldn't handle, and then he went to the Patriots, and then all of a sudden he got released. Well, Tom's like, I'm moving you into my house. Like,
Right.
who would do that, And then they won a Super Bowl because of it, But no one could really handle him except for Brady because he's a leader. He's great with people.
Exactly.
Same thing probably with
He
Jordan.
builds others up, basically.
Right.
What they did.
Well, he pulls
Yeah.
out their greatness.
Yeah.
Like he
That's awesome.
identifies each and every individual. It's
Right.
like, we can't all be hands. We can't all be feet. So
Right.
who's going to put the hand out? Who's going to put the foot out? Let's work together so that we cross that finish line together. So it's a big deal. So when you see people, like, it doesn't matter what industry, like you can identify a leader just based on the people that they surround themselves with, because it shows who they are as an individual of who's following them.
Yeah. And, obviously we both come from leadership organizations and even reading books and stuff. They say leadership is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's churches, sports teams, businesses. It's all about leadership, right?
Right.
And leadership is kind of a lonely and tough position too, because leadership is not about being liked. It's about getting most out of
results.
people and getting results.
Right.
And if you want to be liked, you
Sell
cannot
ice
be a
cream.
leader. Yeah, you can't be a leader. No, I mean honestly, like, and I've had to grow a lot in that area because I grew up wanting to be liked all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I learned recently that, okay, well, if you want to be liked, like you said, just I either go start selling ice cream or I'm an entrepreneur, and I have to sometimes be the unlikable person,
Right.
But because I understand it's the best for everybody and it's the best,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean that's a great point. I never thought of that, but I do know, like that book Relentless, right? Tim Grover.
It's a great book.
Yeah, so
Love that book.
so that he says LeBron is not a cleaner. Jordan was a cleaner. So
Yep.
what a cleaner is that type of person where they're obsessed.
They pick up everything.
Like they pick everything up. They're leaders. They elevate everything. Brett Favre was like that too in the NFL.
He was good.
Like he was not like the best statistically because he was just a wild gunslinger. Like, and he was like partied too much and stuff. But they said when he stepped on the field, everybody's playing
Commanded
elevated.
respect.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
everybody was like, So anyways, so that's how Brady is.
Right.
But on a different level,
Exactly. And it's like nobody. So it's one of the things that I've learned is that not everyone's going to like you, but you got to command that respect.
Yeah.
And when you command that respect, whether they like you or not, they're going to follow you. It's
You
like
just
you
gotta
said,
like you. That's it. Like yourself.
you have to like, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to have your own, association.
Yeah.
There's that thing that where you want, like you crave that attention. I can't remember what speaker talks about that, but basically if you're not getting the attention that you want, you're craving it from other people.
Yeah.
But you don't need someone else to validate you. You just need to make sure that inside of you, like what you're worth.
And if your
Agree.
heart's in the right place and it's for a good reason, they will
Right.
eventually realize it later.
Exactly.
Like my dad was a leader, and we used to butt heads all the time, young, and I even told him I hate him sometimes. And he's like, "You hate me now, but you're gonna thank me later."
Yeah.
And then
Sure enough.
imagine that. Imagine being strong enough as a father that your kid literally is telling you he hates
Yeah.
you. I mean, he probably
That was
thought,
me and my mom.
Yeah, he probably thought I was a stupid little kid. Anyways, like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But then later, I would realize it and be like, "Oh my gosh,
It's like
Dad,
mind
thank
blown.
you so much! Like, wow, I cannot believe, So,
Yeah.
anyways,
It's very true, though.
so Jordan was the GOAT in your opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
All time. Nobody's going to take
Yeah.
that from him.
Yeah.
Like,
I
just
agree.
everything.
But then you got kids that never
saw him.
never saw Jordan.
I have a Wizard jersey.
Okay, with Jordan.
That's how obsessed I was with
Wow.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't get as far as getting a Sox jersey. I came close.
Yeah.
But like I remember I was so obsessed with him. So I was in I was in college and I was in Phoenix at the time, and I went to a Phoenix Suns game where they were playing the Wizards, and I was like, please be here, please be here, please be here. I swear, one day I will meet him face to face. I will.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. Everything that I say, it comes to be. So
trust me.
Sure, put it out in the universe.
I've been saying it for years, but
He's gonna watch this, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna watch this, right, Michael? Come on.
right.
He
on,
will.
Jordan.
Yeah.
And so it was funny because 2 years ago I was in Chicago and I went to his restaurant. So I was like,
Yeah.
He has a restaurant?
Does he
Michael
live,
Jordan restaurant.
Does
Yeah.
he live in Chicago or does he live in Charlotte because of his basketball team?
I have no idea where he lives now. I have lost track of
Because
him.
you know he's the owner of
I
the,
have
he's the owner of the
lost
Charlotte
track.
basketball team now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's been the owner for like 10 years or something like that.
North Carolina?
Yeah. So
Well,
he's-
that's where he grew
He
up.
might be in North Carolina.
Because yeah, it makes
don't quote me on it, but he's the owner of the basketball team. LaMelo Ball, the hottest rookie right now in the NBA, is on his team. So
Nice.
Jordan had a really hard time being a GM. He was really bad for like the first 10 years.
Well, because he wants the best out of people.
But he was not good at selecting players.
Mm.
But also to speak on that point, it's called the Jordan syndrome. They actually call it, because you're so great
Mm-hmm.
that you you can't even like relate to
Right.
average people.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So if they're not at your level, you just don't get it.
You don't
And
respect them, and
you
you
don't
don't see-
respect
yeah.
them, and you're just like, "What's wrong with you?" And it's like, not everybody's Michael Jordan. There's only one of you, right? So
Well,
yeah,
his son plays too.
yeah. I mean, imagine
So-
being his son and living in that shadow, right?
That's rough.
Yeah, and his son was decent, but you
Yeah.
know, I mean, shoot, your dad is the greatest player, but it's okay. That's not his purpose. Maybe,
Right.
Maybe he's talented at something else, right?
Yeah. just
But it
never
is
know.
pretty tough to live in like
That kind of shadow.
type of shadow.
That would be
you know?
rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know. Leave it in the comments. Is Jordan the GOAT? Is it Kobe? Is it LeBron?
No.
Is it Tim Duncan?
No.
All the San Antonio people? Just kidding. That's it, right?
He's like, no.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So now you're working, and then so what happened after that?
So I ended up for Champs, and I burnt out. So
I've heard that a lot.
Oh my gosh.
Especially in big sporting goods stores.
So the thing is that with Champs, we had such a high elevated expectation of like what your store needed to look like
Yeah.
at all times. And if you're working a store, I mean, my store was, when I got there, it was like I think it was like $825,000 a year. That was what kind of store it was.
So yeah, almost $1 million
In
store.
sales, yeah. And I put it from $800,000 store to $2 million store.
Wow.
So
So you got on that radar real quick.
oh yeah, like I was definitely, but again, I lived in the store.
Yeah.
Literally.
You working really hard? No way.
I know.
How
right?
did that happen?
I literally found myself sleeping amongst the boxes in the stock room, and I was like,
All the
I gotta
basketballs.
do something. I was like, this is not good.
Yeah.
This is not. This can't be healthy.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I remember my brother would text me, "Are you coming home?" like,
You're like, no, I'm sleeping on all the new basketballs.
because
That's
I
enough.
was always wanting to be the best, always shooting for the best.
Nothing
'cause-
wrong with that.
Yeah, I know, right? So instead of driving the 45 minutes back and forth to my store, I just ended up taking a sleeping bag and I would sleep in the
And the
stock
store was
room.
probably like 5 miles away, but it took 45 minutes to get there in Southern California, right? Yeah.
Well, I lived in Fullerton at the time.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
that was pretty. I mean, she's yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
anything more than 20 miles,
Yeah,
you're looking
crazy.
at a long drive.
Especially on those freeways.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's nuts. So I literally would work in the store, like open to close every single day.
Right.
And I was just like, this isn't healthy. But because I was trying to save on SPH, sales per hour, I was like, well, if I'm here, then I don't need to have one person in the store. So,
So you're trying to get
yeah.
tricky with the system there,
I was trying to maximize my profits.
but you were burning yourself out. at the same time.
Exactly. You know, so I ended up dealing with, and then I found out that there was an intern program where I could get free labor.
You're
It's
like,
like,
what the heck? Yeah.
so there was all these things. So I was like always trying to figure out how do you get more out of, individuals and training, developing, etc. So I ended up getting a school, which basically they did training for individuals, in which it was like on work programs or whatever. And so basically I got anywhere from 10 to 15 hours per week of free labor.
Yeah. Interns.
Interns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and so my store was always like the highlight. Everyone always wanted to come because they're like, how are you making so much money?
So you figured out like your niche, like your little,
Yeah.
your competitive advantage. So
Exactly. So what ended up happening was my store was always the clean and pristine. Like all the shirts were stacked perfectly. The stickers were all aligned. They were all in these little squares. It almost looked like they were fake. All the shirts were stuffed. There was paper so that they looked thick.
Wow.
And all of the names of the basketball logos all lined up. Everything. Like I was like the ideal store. But again, it was a small little $2 million store.
Right.
So I was trying to get up to the $30 million stores and such, you know, because the bigger the
What's the
stores.
difference in like employee size and store size?
So your sales per hour.
Okay.
It's what it comes down to. So the bigger the store, the more man hours you can
okay.
get.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I had to deal with, you know, sales per hour. Like I was only allotted like 100 hours a week, if that. Like probably 50 hours a week, to be honest with you. So imagine being open during mall hours and only having 50 hours to work with.
Wow.
So managers were no hours.
So you're in salary.
So salary.
Yeah.
So basically slavery. Yeah.
Slavery.
Yeah.
Like no joke. Like sun up to sun down, I was there.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, well, if I work 100 hours a week, that's 150 hours that I can. I know
So you're
it's
trying
not
to
the best.
maximize yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I was like, okay, if I have interns and everything. So I was
You're
always
like,
looking.
Who needs sleep? Yeah.
Exactly. Sleep when I'm
Can I
dead.
survive off of 35 minutes of sleep? Let's try it out.
So, and of course, in California, they ended up with labor laws and they got in trouble for it later because they found out that we were only clocking in for 40 hours and like,
And
yeah.
staying there.
Or
for-
no, I actually had to clock in the time that I was there.
Wow.
So there was like on average, I think on average I was like at 85 hours a week. And they're like, what
Jeez.
are you doing?
Yeah.
They actually pulled me
Yeah.
aside. They're like, what are you doing? Like, are you actually here? And I'm like, yeah.
So
They're
corporate pulled you aside.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they ended up getting a lawsuit after that.
Uh-oh.
Not just me, though. It was
Because
like
of that,
across
the way
California.
they did it. Okay. So they were overworking their people.
Well, that's how it looked like. But it was
Yeah,
like,
sweatshops.
right.
So you ran a sweatshop.
Yeah,
basically,
so-
with sporting goods in it.
Myself.
Yeah. There you go, right?
And so, I mean, it was what it was.
Yeah.
But I ended up, after that, because of I did such a good job at my store, after that I became a market leader. So now I was traveling to all these other stores all across the area, basically managing and showing them this is how you do this is how you do that, this is how you prep. Like have an assembly line, this is how you get this done. So my goal is always how do I get to the next level? How do I get to the next level? So then what ended up happening after that is because I was so efficient, then they had me in charge of all the inventory. So I would travel to all the stores for inventory. So yeah, so it was like I was always like I was trying to get to district manager. That was my goal. So because I kept taking on all these responsibilities and I was like, okay, that's next. Well, I got to a point where I thought I was going to pass out. Like
Yeah.
I was so exhausted.
Wow.
And I was just like, I'm done. Like, I, if this is what it means to get to the next level, I think I'm going to die first.
Yeah.
So I ended up, after that, I ended up taking a big step back and I ended up becoming an assistant store manager for Steinmart.
Okay.
And I was there for like 6 months. And then a corporate headhunter for H&M called me up. And I was just like, huh?
Was this when H&M was fairly
Brand new.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. This was in 2006.
Wow. Because they were in Europe first. 'Cause
Yes,
I remember
Sweden.
I was in Sweden. Yeah.
Mhm. That's
I
where
was
they
in
started.
Sweden in 2002?
Okay.
No, 2000. Yeah,
That sounds too...
2002, I think.
Okay. They were
yeah,
big in
because I got
Europe.
married in 2004. So I was in Sweden in 2002 and I went into an H&M like, wow, this store is pretty cool. What's
Yeah.
this? You know what I mean? So then that was brand new in the U.S.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so H&M started on the East Coast, and then they wanted to branch out to California. Well, the first 3 stores opened in California, in Northern California, in 2006.
Okay.
So they started, they're like, we need a corporate controller. So I was just like, okay. And they're like, with your past experience and everything, we want to take a look at you. This was the first time ever that a company reached out to me. So for me, it was like, whoa. I was like, okay.
Your hard work was paying off.
Yeah, I had no idea who H&M was.
Yeah.
No clue whatsoever.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, you've met all... I went through like 4 interviews, I remember, over the phone. And I was just like, this is weird. Like, I've never had this happen, right? So,
Yeah.
and I remember...
Like, yeah, why would you be good for this job? I'm just kidding.
No, they were already speaking
I'm just
English.
kidding.
They were-
Sweden. My ex-wife is Swedish. Okay, so Swedes, don't kill me. I've been to Stockholm 4 times. My ex-wife did not sound like that. I'm just kidding. Anyways, go ahead.
So I ended up getting a phone call from the the country controller. His name was John Lockler or something, I think. And he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, LisSandra," he goes, "we really like everything that we've heard so far, and we're interested in meeting with you. Are you able to come to New York?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, we would fly you out here. We'd put you in a hotel, and we'd give you per diem to be able to get around."
Nice.
Is that something that you can manage for such and such dates? And I was like, "Can I get back to you?"
Let me check my schedule.
What's a controller?
Yes.
Corporate control, budget and analysis.
Okay.
Yeah, basically sales per hour.
Okay.
Managing the sales budgets, making sure that everything runs smoothly, allocations in the store, making sure that there's enough small, medium, large, that kind of thing. Yeah, what was my dream?
For Dillard's.
Direct manager? Wait.
To become Rachel Green.
Oh, that's right. Oh, you had a lot.
I don't know who Rachel Green is, so I'm sorry.
Friends.
Oh, I never watched Friends, by the way.
What? You
Yeah.
need to start.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Rachel, Jennifer Aniston is
Jennifer
Rachel,
Aniston.
right?
Mhm.
Okay.
She was a buyer for Bloomingdale's.
Oh yeah.
Don't hate me
Bloomingdale's.
for not watching Friends too much. I didn't really understand.
You can always start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the song. Anyways.
So basically, I was like, "No way! Like this is."
So
not
you wanted
real.
to be Jennifer Aniston.
I wanted to be Jennifer
Okay.
Aniston.
Well,
from
her
Friends.
character in
her
Friends.
yes. So again, this was like, I was like, this can't be real. Like, right?
I'm
Like,
becoming
this
Rachel
is actually
Green.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I've been working towards. This is
That's
what
awesome.
I want.
Yeah.
And so I went to my store manager at the time and I said, "Hey, and she's like, do you have a job opportunity?" I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "I'm glad you're honest with me and told me what's going on." She goes, "I'm actually gonna take another job. So I hope you get this." She goes, "Because you are very talented and you deserve to."
Run. Run. Get out.
So she was my first, I was like, wow, like somebody actually,
Supported that, right?
Yeah.
And being
That's
a
a big
manager
deal.
too.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, wow.
That was a big sign too, though. She's like,
Yes.
yeah, please go. Yeah.
She's like, "No, of course." She goes, "That sounds like an amazing opportunity. Don't even think about it. Just do it."
Yeah, that's awesome.
So this was my first time ever in New York. So I flew to New York and I'm just like, I'm here.
That's crazy. I haven't been to New York.
What?
I gotta go, yeah.
I've been back several times since. So you have to go. It's beautiful.
Just don't go during summer because it's really hot.
It's
I
muggy.
melt.
It's muggy. And the thing is that, like, for instance, everyone says Arizona's too hot, but it's not, because it's a dry heat. So as long as you're in shade or in air conditioning, you're fine. Whereas in New York and anywhere else that has high humidity, you're dying in 80 degrees.
Humidity.
You feel like everything sticks to you and
Yeah.
you're like, I can't breathe.
I went to Costa Rica. I had to take 2 showers a day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's high humidity, to say the least.
Yeah.
But it was a crazy dream come true. Like, I was like, wow. And it was the funniest thing because I get there to my interview, and my interview was that I had to take a clipboard and I had to go to their busiest stores on 5th Avenue.
Wow.
And so that's high fashion.
Yeah, that's like legit.
Yeah.
Like
and
Rachel
they wanted
Green stuff going
yeah,
down
and
right
they
there.
wanted me to come back and give them an analysis of what I saw. And I was like, is this a trap?
Like, did you see Times Square? It's awesome. Like,
And I was like tripping out. I was like, oh my God. Like, he goes, "I want you to come back and give me a report card of what you saw and what you observed and what you feel that you can fix."
yeah, that's cool.
And I was just like, oh my gosh.
Was there a time limit?
Yeah, they gave me a time frame. They said I want you back by 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like, all your clothes suck. I'm just kidding. No
So-
one's gonna wear this crap. I'm just
And
kidding.
because I'm super OCD, like I always look like, okay, like, is this, straight? Is this organized? So like for me, I was like, oh my God, this is a mess. Like I was like, everything's everywhere. The front mannequins were naked and the wall hangings were all crooked. And I was just like, oh my God, like
the mannequins were naked in the store?
Yeah,
New York.
they
Wow.
took off the clothes of the mannequins. So
Jeez.
I personally, I was like I'm sitting across from the country controller and the CFO, and I'm just like, is this a trap?
Yeah, you're like,
I was like, do you really want me to give you an opinion or an honest answer? And they're like, absolutely. What did you see? And I said, the fitting room attendant was very friendly. and she greeted me from far away. I always start with the good, right?
Yeah.
I was like, and it looked like she was doing 2 tasks because she was hanging clothes and such and everything. I go, and the staff all greeted me when I walked in. And that was like a big thing. I was like, that's, that shows that, they're being attentive and they're being aware of their surroundings. So I started with all the positive, and then like, okay, that sounds, yeah. And they're like, okay, so what did you notice that was wrong? And I was like, okay. And I started telling them there was pegs that were empty, that were sticking out, that were a potential hazard. There was clothes that was stacked up. The fitting room racks should have been cleared out faster. Mannequins were naked, etc. And I told them all that, and they're just like, wow. And I go, and the front presentation table didn't have clothes on it. And they're just like, huh, okay. And they're like,
can you call and fire Jim Bob, please?
I know. It's like, oh my God, who am I going to get in trouble? And so I did all that. I went through in the different stores and everything, gave them my feedback on both stores. And it was just like, it almost felt validating, like, because I saw things through my eyes as a merchandiser, my eyes as a manager, all these things. I was just like, oh, so this is why I've worked so hard.
Your dream was kind of coming true.
Right. And so I always thought I was going to be a buyer, but I ended up as a controller for a major, fashion company, and doing what I love, which was helping managers elevate.
So you got the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you work in Southern California or Northern California?
So they started me. I moved to Manhattan, and I lived in a skyrise in the financial district.
Nice.
All paid for by the company for 3 months.
Rachel, great.
All the way, right? And then I lived from Manhattan. They moved me to Philly in high winter. And then from Philly, I moved to Chicago. And again, the company was paying for all of this.
Alaska.
So my biggest thing was I never had to haggle for pay. So I didn't know what you were supposed to get paid. Right. So I basically cut myself off.
You lowballed yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, because I was so excited. I was like, I want this job.
It's a journey.
Exactly, right? So I never really knew what I was worth.
They're like, sure, when can you start?
Pretty much. Yeah. So I was just like, and I asked, I was like, is that like their only offer? And like, I didn't know how you're supposed to do that. So
oh, good. You got the experience. Yeah.
I loved it. I didn't care. It was awesome.
You were Jetson.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, they put me up in these crazy places, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I get to live here? Like, it was crazy. Making more money because I didn't have any expenses. Mm-hmm. So I ended up enjoying all that, and then they moved me to San Francisco, and they're like, okay, well, we decided that we're not going to move you back to Southern Cal because the entire team's up in Northern Cal. And I was like, my brother lives in Southern Cal. Like, I have to talk to him. And so they basically gave me now they paid me now to move. Because it was their inconvenience to me. And then the time came where they're like, well, we're moving back to Southern California. Are you coming with us?
Oh, wow.
So I got to choose to stay in Northern California at that time.
So that's what brought you to Northern California.
That's what brought me to Northern California.
When was that?
2007.
Where did you go, in San Francisco? Or
I lived in San Francisco, and then they paid for my hotel for 3 months, and they said, okay, now you got to figure out where you're going to live. I was like, I was like, geez. And I didn't know anybody in the Bay.
Little girl from the barrio in Tucson is now in freaking the big city of San Francisco.
Yeah, and then I didn't know you can't walk down Hyde Street.
In
the middle of the night, I was like, okay,
not in Tucson anymore.
It's still the same way, by the way. You can just walk by yourself on Hyde
Street.
Street.
San Francisco now.
Okay.
Both Hatem and Joe live in San Francisco.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's a great city. I mean,
it is.
Just stay during the day.
Yeah.
You just got to know where to walk by yourself.
Exactly. Well, that was the thing, is that one thing that I've learned is if you walk with confidence, nobody bugs you.
Yeah. Especially if you're in a bad area.
Yeah. If you walk like you belong anywhere, it doesn't matter where it is. If you walk in like you belong there, nobody's going to question.
Yeah, I walk like people don't see me. Then they don't see me.
Yeah. If you're in the hood and you're walking around like you're new and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, like you're like, oh my God.
You don't want to attract that, you know.
Just like, that's for sure. Something.
Thank you for tuning in. That was the end of part 1. Part 2 comes out next Monday, 9 a.m. Please stay tuned.
Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when the next one comes out.